Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that's driving you crazy. He acts distant. He doesn't message as much. He pulls back when things start getting deep. And part of you wants to believe he doesn't care. But something about his energy, the way he looks at you, the way he lingers, tells a different story. You know what's confusing? When someone is hooked on you, but doesn't know how to handle it. Because we often assume that love, or even attraction, will always show up with effort, consistency, romance. But real emotions, real feelings, they terrify some people. So here's what I want you to take away today. Just because he's acting distant doesn't mean you're not in his head. A man acting distant doesn't always mean he's lost interest. This is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in modern dating, especially when it comes to emotionally complex or avoidant men. We tend to assume that if someone cares, they'll show up clearly, consistently, and loudly. That if a man is truly into you, he'll flood your phone with messages, plan dates, and make you feel prioritized 24/7. But the truth is far more nuanced, especially when emotions hit a depth he wasn't prepared for. When a man starts feeling something real, something deeper than attraction or surface-level chemistry, it can cause a reaction that looks like withdrawal. He might pull back, go quiet, or take longer to respond. Not because he doesn't care, but because the feelings are triggering something inside him that he hasn't fully faced. For many men, deep emotions can bring up fear of vulnerability, fear of being hurt, fear of not being enough, or fear of being consumed by someone else's expectations. And when those fears get activated, the instinct isn't to run toward the fire, it's to pull back and protect. This can be incredibly confusing if you're on the receiving end of it. One day he's present, flirty, connected. The next, he's gone emotionally. The sudden change makes you question everything. Was it real? Did you imagine the chemistry? Why does he act like nothing happened? But here's the key. Real feelings can actually destabilize someone who's not emotionally ready. He may not have the tools to process what he's feeling. So instead of leaning in, he detaches. Sometimes a man distances himself as a way of managing intensity. Maybe the connection with you felt too good. Maybe he started to see you as someone who could actually matter, and that scared him. Because if you matter, you can hurt him. If he lets himself fall, he's giving up control. And not everyone is emotionally prepared to do that, even if they want to. His distance becomes a defense mechanism, a way to create space so he doesn't feel overwhelmed or exposed. And it's important to understand this without rushing to take it personally. His behavior may not be a reflection of your value. It might be a reflection of his emotional capacity. Some men need time to come to terms with their feelings, especially if they're not used to feeling deeply or being seen. And sometimes when you make a man feel truly seen, it shakes something in him that he wasn't ready to confront. Now, this doesn't mean you should wait around indefinitely or make excuses for someone who consistently fails to show up. But it does mean you should look at distance with more clarity. Emotional investment doesn't always show up the way we expect. Some men express it in indirect ways: silence, hesitation, withdrawal, because they're afraid of the magnitude of what they feel. Ironically, that very distance can be a sign that something inside them was moved, something shifted. And often, when a man goes distant after closeness, it's not because he didn't feel anything, it's because he did. When a man is hooked but emotionally conflicted, his behavior becomes inconsistent. This is one of the most confusing experiences for someone trying to understand where they stand. One moment, he's warm, affectionate, present. He's texting you first, making plans, maybe even opening up emotionally. Then suddenly he's distant. The energy shifts. The effort disappears. He becomes cold, vague, and hard to read. And the emotional whiplash this causes makes you question your instincts. Was the connection real? Was it all in your head? But here's the truth. When a man is emotionally invested but struggling internally, whether it's due to past trauma, commitment fears, or emotional immaturity, his actions start to contradict his feelings. He's hooked, but he's fighting it. Part of him wants to be close to you, and another part is afraid of what that closeness will mean. So what you experience is this hot, and cold pattern, pulling you in, then pushing you away. The hot moments are real. When he's leaning in, when he's being vulnerable, when he's truly present, it's not an act. It's a glimpse of how he feels when his guard is down. But the cold moments, those come when the reality of those feelings sets in, when his mind starts spinning with what ifs and I'm not ready, or this is too much. And so he retracts, not because the feelings are gone, but because they've started to feel too real. Conflicted behavior is often misunderstood as manipulation. And yes, sometimes people do play games, but in many cases, especially with avoidant or emotionally unavailable men, this push-pull behavior is not calculated, it's reactive. He's not trying to hurt you, he's trying to protect himself. And in doing so, he creates confusion and inconsistency that can feel deeply hurtful to you. One of the biggest signs a man is hooked but conflicted is when he can't stay away. Even after he pulls back, even after he creates distance, he finds a way to re-enter your orbit. It could be a random text, watching your story, a just checking in message. These moments aren't accidental. They're expressions of a mind that can't fully let go, even if the heart is scared to fully lean in. You may notice that he engages more when he senses you're pulling away. That's not a coincidence. It's the behavior of someone who's emotionally torn. He wants you close enough to feel safe, but not so close that he feels out of control. That's the hallmark of someone in emotional conflict. He's trying to manage the closeness without confronting the fear that comes with intimacy. The most dangerous part of this dynamic is that it keeps you in a state of emotional uncertainty. You keep holding on to the highs, hoping they'll return. You try to analyze every message, every look, every withdrawal, hoping for clarity. But when someone is internally conflicted, their behavior will always be inconsistent because their inner world is divided. Understanding this doesn't mean you should tolerate it forever, but it does help you recognize that inconsistent behavior is often a symptom of deeper emotional struggle, not a reflection of your worth. When someone is hooked but conflicted, they become their own obstacle. Their actions betray their feelings, and their fears override their desire. You can feel the chemistry, the tension, the connection, but none of it feels grounded or safe. In the end, it's not your job to fix his emotional confusion, but recognizing the signs helps you stop internalizing his inconsistency as rejection. Because a man who is truly over you doesn't send mixed signals. He sends none at all. Your energy speaks louder than your words. When you value yourself, when you move with confidence, boundaries, and a sense of inner peace, that energy lingers in a man's mind far more than any message you send or anything you do to try to impress him. What you radiate is what stays with him. That energy, the way you carry yourself, the way you choose not to chase, not to beg, not to compete, is magnetic. It creates space that makes him lean in, wonder, and rethink how he's handling the connection. When a woman holds her standard and doesn't abandon herself just to be chosen, it leaves an imprint. Whether he says it out loud or not, he notices. He feels it. Especially if he's used to women trying to earn him, trying to get his attention, or bending themselves to stay in his life. When he meets someone who doesn't do that, who instead gives him the gift of her presence without forcing herself to be seen, she becomes unforgettable. Not because she played a game, but because she stayed in her worth. Your energy affects how someone shows up for you. It sets the tone. If you're constantly anxious, overthinking, waiting by the phone, trying to be more enough, that energy isn't just exhausting for you. It creates a dynamic where you're chasing and he's retreating. Not necessarily because he doesn't care, but because the balance has been lost. When one person's energy says, "Please pick me," the other often unconsciously steps back. It becomes a dance of imbalance, one person proving, the other evaluating. And when that happens, attraction starts to erode. But the moment you stop giving and start simply being, the moment you remember that you are the prize, that your peace is non-negotiable, and that your time is valuable, your energy shifts. You stop seeking his validation and start noticing his consistency. You stop trying to be the exception and start expecting reciprocity. And he feels that shift. Even if he doesn't fully understand it, it changes the way he experiences you. You're no longer just someone who wants him. You become someone he realizes he could lose. This is not about manipulation or pretending to be detached. It's about genuinely connecting with your self-worth, so you don't abandon it just because someone is acting distant or inconsistent. Because when a man feels like you're trying to prove yourself to him, he doesn't have to think too deeply about what you're worth. He assumes you don't see it yourself. But when you show up with calm, grounded, non-anxious energy, and you don't respond to his pullbacks with panic, it creates contrast. That contrast sticks with him. He starts asking himself, why isn't she chasing me? Why does she seem so unbothered? What is it about her that feels so different? And that's when you start to live in his head. Not because you did something dramatic, but because you didn't. You didn't beg. You didn't break. You didn't abandon your dignity just to be seen. That kind of self-contained energy creates an emotional echo. He might not act on it immediately. He might not even understand it, but it unsettles him in the best way. It challenges him to step up or lose something rare. And that's what truly leaves a lasting impression. Not how available you were, but how you carried yourself when you didn't have to try. When your presence was enough. When your absence spoke even louder. When a man is emotionally hooked but acting distant, one of the clearest signs he's still invested is how he watches you silently. He may not reach out, he may not initiate conversations, but he's observing you closely. He's paying attention to your stories, your posts, your energy. It's subtle, but persistent. You'll notice that he's always one of the first to view your stories, or that he's suddenly liking a post from 2 months ago. He may not be speaking, but he's still listening. He may not be showing up directly, but he's staying close in the background. This kind of behavior is what many call orbiting. He's not in your life, but he's circling it. He's not giving you clarity, but he's keeping a digital thread of connection open. Why? Because he's not ready to engage emotionally, yet he's not able to fully let go either. It's emotional limbo. He needs the sense of access to you, even if he's not doing anything meaningful with it. He may not be talking to you, but he's watching to see if you've moved on, if you seem happier, if someone else is showing up in your life. For many men who are emotionally conflicted, silence doesn't mean disinterest. It means internal chaos. He might be battling with himself, trying to figure out how he feels, or how to come back without being vulnerable. Watching you gives him a sense of control. He can keep tabs on you without exposing his emotions or risking rejection. It's a way of feeling connected without having to confront his own fears or shortcomings. But make no mistake, this behavior isn't passive. It's intentional. You'll also notice that even if he's silent, he responds to your changes. You post a photo with someone new. He's back in your DMs. You stop posting for a while. He sends a vague, "Hey, stranger," message. You glow up and start radiating confidence. He suddenly remembers you exist. These reactions are his way of managing the emotional hold you still have on him. Your silence, your shift in energy, your growth, it doesn't go unnoticed. It challenges his assumption that you'd wait forever. What's important to understand is that this kind of watching isn't harmless. It creates emotional confusion. It sends mixed signals. And while he may not be trying to hurt you, his inability to step up while staying connected keeps you in a state of wondering. That's why it's crucial not to take this passive attention as a sign of real action. Because someone watching you isn't the same as someone choosing you. Someone keeping tabs isn't the same as someone building something with you. His presence in your digital life might feel comforting at times, especially if you still have feelings. It might feel like proof that he still cares. But attention is not the same as intention. He might care, but if he's not showing up with clarity, effort, and consistency, then that care is not enough. Don't let his silent presence keep you emotionally stuck. Don't confuse observation with commitment. The truth is, he watches because he still feels something. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's guilt, maybe it's longing. But the question is never just, is he watching? The real question is, What is he doing with what he sees? And if the answer is nothing, if he's still silent, still distant, still unavailable, then his watching is just a mirror of his fear, not his love. When a man is emotionally avoidant, it can be easy to mistake his silence for absence. But just because he's not expressing his feelings doesn't mean he isn't feeling them. Emotional avoidance doesn't mean emotional emptiness. In fact, many avoidant men feel deeply, but they've learned to protect those feelings by hiding, repressing, or disconnecting from them. So while you might experience him as distant, unreadable, or detached, underneath the surface there is often a strong emotional current that he's struggling to manage. Avoidant behavior is a form of self-protection. Somewhere along the way, he learned that closeness can be overwhelming, that vulnerability can be dangerous, and that letting someone in might lead to pain, rejection, or losing control. So what does he do? He shuts down emotionally, not because he doesn't feel, but because feeling is risky. His mind tells him to suppress, to avoid, to retreat, because that feels safer than confronting the vulnerability that true connection demands. This creates a confusing dynamic. You sense there's something there. You feel the spark, the pull, the moments where he lets his guard down. But then, just as it feels like things are deepening, he withdraws. He may change the subject when conversations get emotional. He may ghost after a particularly intimate moment. He may act like nothing happened the next day, as if the closeness didn't exist. But here's the truth, it did exist. He felt it. He just didn't know how to sit with it. In many cases, the more he feels, the more avoidant he becomes. That's the paradox. Deep feelings trigger deep fear. So instead of leaning in, he creates distance. Instead of opening up, he disconnects. And to you, it might look like he doesn't care. It might feel like rejection. But often it's not about you at all. It's about his unresolved emotions, his unhealed past, and his fear of what might happen if he truly lets someone see him. One of the most telling signs that he's emotionally affected, even when he's acting avoidant, is that he keeps orbiting your life. He stays just close enough to feel the connection, but far enough to not feel exposed. He might not say what he feels, but you'll notice small behaviors, a protective silence, a jealous reaction, a random check-in. These are signs that his emotions are alive, even if he's trying to hide them. Emotional avoidants aren't emotionless. They are often overwhelmed by their inner world. The problem is they've never learned how to process those emotions in a healthy, relational way. Instead of communicating openly, they bottle it all up. They play it cool. They avoid intimacy and keep things surface level. But that doesn't mean they're unaffected. In fact, the more they try to avoid their emotions, the more those emotions control them from behind the scenes. This is why so many avoidant men think about you long after they've pulled away. You may think he's moved on because he's not reaching out, but often he's replaying everything in his head. He's analyzing what he felt, what scared him, why he panicked. He may even stalk your social media quietly, trying to piece together what you're thinking, all while keeping you at arm's length. His mind is active, even if his behavior seems passive. Understanding this helps you separate his emotional behavior from your worth. His avoidance isn't proof that you are too much, too emotional, or not enough. It's proof that intimacy activates a part of him he doesn't know how to handle. So while he may not express his emotions clearly, that doesn't mean they're not there. They're just buried under years of self-protection, fear, and emotional habits that no longer serve him, but still control him. When a man can't fully walk away from you, even after he's pulled back, it's a powerful sign that you're still in his head. You may not hear from him consistently. He might not be showing up with clarity or commitment, but somehow he lingers. He doesn't disappear completely. He keeps orbiting your life, sometimes with subtle texts, sometimes through mutual friends, or even just passive behaviors like viewing your stories and staying connected online. This lingering presence reveals something deeper, emotional attachment that he hasn't resolved, processed, or let go of. A man who is done with you doesn't keep returning to your space. He doesn't keep testing the waters to see if you're still emotionally available. But But when he keeps coming back, just when you've started to detach, it usually means he hasn't moved on, not truly. He may be dating other people. He may even pretend he's doing fine. But if he keeps revisiting you in subtle ways, he's not as detached as he wants you to believe. These men often try to maintain a kind of emotional safety net. They want distance, but they don't want disconnection. They want the freedom to explore other things without feeling the full consequence of losing you. That's why they might text out of nowhere with, "Just thinking of you," or "Hope you're doing well." It seems casual on the surface, but it's emotionally loaded underneath. It's not just a message, it's a probe. A way of checking if they still have access. A way of confirming that they haven't fully lost their place in your world. This pattern can create deep emotional confusion. You start wondering, why is he still around if he doesn't want to commit? It's because emotionally, he hasn't figured out how to let go. There's something about the connection, your presence, your energy, your emotional depth, that impacted him. And even though he's pulled away, he hasn't replaced or resolved what he felt with you. Often men who are emotionally conflicted go through cycles. They distance themselves when feelings become too intense. Then when they sense you pulling your energy back, they come forward again. This push-pull dynamic isn't always a game. Sometimes it's a reflection of emotional fear. He wants closeness but is terrified of what it brings. So he tries to manage the connection in ways that don't require full vulnerability, hoping to maintain just enough closeness without risking emotional exposure. But even in his silence, he's thinking. When you're truly in someone's head, they don't need constant contact to feel your presence. You live in the space between his distractions. You show up in the quiet moments, when he sees something that reminds him of you, when he feels lonely, when someone else doesn't measure up. That's the thing about emotional impact, it lingers. Especially when he knows that what he had with you was real, even if he wasn't ready to hold it. The fact that he can't walk away completely means you touched something he wasn't expecting. You became more than a temporary moment. You became a mirror of what he's not ready to face. That might be his own fears, his past wounds, or the realization that he let something valuable slip through his fingers. And while he may not say it out loud, he's processing it internally. His struggle to walk away isn't just about missing you. It's about wrestling with the version of himself that wasn't ready for you. So he keeps returning, not just to you, but to the memory of how he felt when he was with you. That emotional imprint doesn't fade easily. And when a man keeps circling back, even in silence, it's because he's not just remembering you, he's still trying to understand what you awakened in him. So, if he's acting distant but still lingers in your life, still watches you, still reappears, still reacts, it's not random, it's emotional conflict. He's hooked, but he doesn't know how to handle what he feels. And while it might be tempting to wait, to decode every signal, or to try and prove your worth, remember this. You are not here to chase clarity from someone who can't give it. You are here to honor your own emotional peace. A man who's truly ready won't just feel deeply, he'll show up deeply. So let him wrestle with his silence, his fear, and his uncertainty. But you stay grounded in your worth. Because the woman who knows her value never has to beg to be chosen. She becomes unforgettable by how she walks away when she's no longer met. TAQO